The Amplified Bible I'm reading of. So Judges 3. So it says, now these are the nations which the Lord left in order to test Israel by them. That is all the people of Israel who had not previously experienced any of the wars of Canaan. Only in order the generations of the sons of Israel might be taught war, at least those who had not experienced it previously. The remaining nations are the 5 lords, governors of the Philistines, all the Canaanites, the Sidonians, the Sidonians, and the Hivites, and who lived on Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal-Hermon in the entrance of Hamath. They were allowed to remain for the testing of Israel, to determine whether Israel would listen to and obey the commandments of the Lord, which he had commanded their fathers, ancestors, through Moses. And the Israelites lived among the Canaanites, Hivites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. And he took their daughters for themselves as the wives, and gave their own daughters to their sons, and served their pagan false gods. Exodus chapter 34, verse 12, verse 16. And the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord, and they forgot the Lord their God, and served the Baals and the Asheroth. Judge chapter 2, verse 13. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of the Cushan Rishaman, king of the Mesopotamia, Mesopotamia. And the Israelites served Cushreshan 8 years. But when the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help, the Lord raised up a man to rescue the people of Israel, Ophaniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he judged Israel, and he went out to war. And the Lord gave I don't know how to say some of these words, it's so difficult. Rishaman, I don't know, the king of Meso, into his hand, and he prevailed over Cushan. And the land was at rest from oppression for 40 years. Then Ophir, the sons of Kenaz, died. Now the Israelites again did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord strengthened Eglon, king of Moab, against Israel, since they had done what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And Eljon gathered to him the sons of Ammon and Amak, and went and struck down Israel in defeat, and they took possession of the city of palm trees, Jericho. And the Israelites served Eljon, king of Moab, 18 years. But when the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help, the Lord raised up a man to rescue them, Ehud, the son of Gera, a Benjamite, a left-handed man. And the Israelites sent a gift of tribute by him to Eljon, the king of Moab. Now Ehud made for himself a sword 1 cubit long, which had 2 edges, and he bound it on his right thigh under his robe. And he brought the tribute to Eljon, king of Moab. Now Eljon was a very fat man. And when Ehud had finished presenting the tribute, he sent away the people who had carried it. But Ehud himself turned back from the sculptured stones at Gilgal, and he returned to Eljon and said to him, I have a secret message for you, O king. Elgon said, keep your silence. And all who attended him left him. Ehud came to him as he was sitting alone in his private, cool upper chamber, and Ehud said, I have a message from God for you. And the king got up from his seat. Then Ehud reached out with his left hand and took the sword from his right thigh and plunged it into Elkanah's belly. And the hilt also went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade, because Ahab did not draw the sword out of his belly. And the refuse came out. Then Ahab went out into the vestibule, what? I don't know. The vestibule, and shut the doors of the upper chamber behind him, and locked them. When Ed had departed, Elkanah's servants came, and when they saw that the doors of the upper room were locked, they said, "He is only relieving himself in the cool room." They waited a very long time until he became embarrassed and uneasy, but he still did not open the doors of the upper room. So finally they took the key and opened them, and behold, their master had fallen to the floor dead. Now it had escaped while they lingered, and he passed beyond the sculpture stones and escaped it to Syria. When he had arrived, he blew a trumpet in the hill country of Ephraim, and the sons of Israel went down with him from the hill country, and he was in front of them. And he said to them, "Pursue them, for the Lord has handed over your enemies, the Moabites, to you." So they went down after him and seized the fords of the Jordan opposite Moab, and did not allow anyone to cross. They struck down at that time about 10,000 Moabite men, all strong, courageous men. Not a man escaped it. So Moab was subdued and humbled that day under the hand of Israel, and the land was at rest for 80 years. Shamgar rescues from the Philistines. After Ed had came from Shamgar, the son of Anath, who struck down 600 Philistine men with an ox goad, he too saved Israel. So at Judges 4, Deborah and Barak rescue from the Canaanites. But the Israelites again did evil in the sight of the Lord after Ahab died. So the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth Haguram. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help, for Jabin had 900 iron chariots and had oppressed and tormented the sons of Israel severely for 20 years. Now Deborah, a prophetess, she was never a pastor, she was a prophetess. Now Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, was judging Israel at that time. She used to sit to hear and decide disputes under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites came up to her for judgment. Now she sent word and summoned Barak, the son of Abion, from Kadesh Naphtali, and said to him, "Behold, the Lord, the God of Israel, has commanded, go and march to Mount Tabor, and take with you 10,000 men of war from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun. I will draw Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his infantry to meet you at the river of Kishon, and I will hand him over to you." Then Barak said to her, "If you will go with me, then I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go." She said, "I will certainly go with you, nevertheless. The journey that you are about to undertake will not be for your honor and glory, because the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman." Then Deborah got up and went with Barak to Kadesh. And Barak summoned the fighting men of the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and 10,000 men went up under his command. Deborah also went up with him. Now Heber the Canaanite had separated himself from the Canaanites from the sons of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, and had pitched his tent as far away as terebinth tree in Zidon, which is near Kadesh. When someone told Sisera that Barak the son of Abanion had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera called together all his chariots, 900 iron chariots, and all the people who were with him, from Hazeroth to the river of Kishon. Deborah said to Barak, "Arise, for this is the day when the Lord has given Sisera into your hand. Has the Lord not gone out before you?" So Barak went down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him, and the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and confused all his army with the edge of the sword before Barak, and Sisera dismounted from his chariot and fled away on foot. But Barak pursued the chariots and the army to Haresh, and the entire army of Sisera fell by the sword. Not even one man was left. But Sisera fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Canaanite, because there was peace between Jabin, the king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Canaanite. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Turn aside, my lord, turn aside to me. Have no fear." So he turned aside to her and went into the tent, and she covered him with a robe. And he said to her, "Please give me a little water to drink, because I am thirsty." And she opened a skin of milk and gave him a drink, and then she covered him. And he said to her, "Stand at the door at the tent, and if any man comes and asks you, 'Is there anyone here?' tell him no." But Jael, Heber's wife, took a tent peg and a hammer in her hand, and came quietly to him, and drove the peg through his temple, and it went through into the ground, for he was sound asleep and exhausted, so he died. And behold, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came up to meet him, and said to him, "Come, and I will show you the man whom you are seeking." And he entered her tent with her, and behold, Sisera lay dead with the tent peg in his temple. So on that day God subdued and humbled Jabin king of Canaan before the sons of Israel. And the hand of the sons of Israel pressed down heavier and heavier on Jabin king of Canaan until they had destroyed him. So Judges 5 next. The son of Deborah and Barak. Then Deborah and Barak, the son of Abiam, sang on that day, saying, for the leaders who took the lead in Israel, for the people who volunteered for battle, "Bless the Lord. Hear, O kings, listen, O rulers. I will sing to the Lord. I will sing praise to the Lord, the God of Israel. Lord, when you went out from Seir, when you marched from the field of Edom, the earth quaked, the heavens also dripped. Yes, the clouds drip water, the mountains quake at the presence of the Lord. Yes, this Sinai at the presence of the Lord, the God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, the son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were deserted, and travelers went by roundabout ways. The villagers ceased in Israel until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel. They chose new gods. Then war was in the gates. Was there a shield or spear seen among 40,000 in Israel? My heart goes out to the commanders of Israel, the volunteers among the people. Bless the Lord, sing of it, you who ride on white donkeys, you who sit on rich carpets, and you who walk by the way. At the sound of those who divide flocks among the watering places, there should be recount the righteous acts of the Lord, the righteous acts toward his villagers in Israel. Then the people of the Lord went down to the gates. Awake, awake, Deborah. Awake, awake, sing a song. Arise, Barak, and lead away your captives, you son of Abiam. Then down marched the survivors to the nobles. The people of the Lord marched down for me against the mighty. From Ephraim, those whose root is in Ammon, came down. After you, Benjamin, with your relatives. From Mariah, from Machir came down commanders and rulers, and from Gibeon those who handled the sculpture of the office of scribe. And the heads of Esir came with Deborah. As Eshekar, so was Barak into the valley. They rushed at his heels. Among the divisions of Reuben there were great searchings of heart. Why, Reuben, did you linger among the sheepfolds to hear the piping for the flocks? Among the divisions of Reuben there were great searchings of heart. Gilead remained beyond the Jordan. And why did Dan live as an alien on ships? Asher sat still on the seacoast and remained by its islands. These did not come to battle for God's people, but Gibeon was a people who risked their lives to the point of death. Naphtali also, on the heights of the field, the kings came and fought, and the kings of Canaan fought at Tartak by the water of Medigo. Spoils of silver they did not obtain. From the heavens the stars fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. The torrent Kishon swept the enemy away. The ancient torrent, the torrent Kishon. O my soul, march on with the strength. Then the horses' hoofs beat loudly because of the galloping of the valiant and powerful steeds. Curse Merah, said the messenger of the Lord, utterly curse its inhabitants, because they did not come to the help of the Lord, to the help of the Lord against the mighty. Most blessed of women is Jael, the wife of Heber the Canaanite. Most blessed is she of the woman in the tent. Ouch. So Sarah asked for water, and she gave him milk. She brought him curds in a magnificent bowl, and she reached out her left hand for the tent peg, and her right hand for the workman's hammer. And then she struck Sisera. She smashed his head, and she shattered and pierced his temple. And he bowed, and he fell, and he laid still at her feet. At her feet he bowed, he fell. Where he bowed, there he fell dead. Out of the window she looked down, and Lamanid cried out in a sheer voice, the mother of Sisera, through the lattice. Why is his chariot delayed in coming? Why have the hoofbeats of his chariots delayed? Her wise ladies answered her. Indeed, she repeated her words to herself. Are they not finding in dividing the spoil a maiden concubine, or two for every man? A spoil of dyed garments and broil, 2 pieces of dyed garments and broil for the neck of the plunder. So let all your enemies perish, O Lord, but let those who love him be like the rising of the sun in its might, in the land as at rest for 40 years. So chapter Judges 6. Israel oppressed by Midian. Then the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord gave them into the hand of a Midian for 7 years. The powerful hand of Midian prevailed against Israel. Because of Midian, the sons of Israel made for themselves the dens, hideouts, which were in the mountains, in the caves, and in the mountain strongholds. For it was whenever Israel had sown their seed that the Midianites would come up with the Ammonites and the people of the east and go up against them. So they would camp against them and destroy the crops of the land as far as Gaza, and leave no substance in Israel, as well as no sleep ox or donkey. For they would come up with their livestock in their tents, and they would come in as numbers as locusts. Both they and their camels were innumerable, so they came into the land to desolate it. So Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. And the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help. Now it came about when they cried out to the Lord because of Midian that the Lord sent a prophet to the Israelites. And he said to them, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt and brought you out of the house of slavery, and I rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the hand of all who oppressed you, and drove them out before you, and gave you their land. And I said to you, I am the Lord your God. You shall not fear the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you live, but you have not listened to me. You have not listened to and obeyed my voice." Gideon is visited. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth tree at Ophrah, which belonged to Josiah the Israelite, and his son Gideon was beating wheat in the winepress instead of the threshing floor to hide it and save it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, O brave man." But Gideon said to him, "Please, my Lord, if the Lord is with us, then why has all this happened to us? And where are all his wondrous works which our fathers told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and put us into the hand of Midian." The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength of yours and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Have I not sent you?" But Gideon said to him, "Please, Lord, how am I to rescue Israel? Behold, my family is the least significant and Messiah, and I am the youngest, smallest in my father's house." The Lord answered him, "I will certainly be with you, and you will strike down the Midianites as if they were only one man." Gideon replied to him, "If I have found any favor in your sight, then show me a sign that it is you who speaks with me. Please do not depart from here until I come back to you and bring my offering and place it before you." And he said, "I will wait until you return." Then Gideon went and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread from the ephah of flour. The meat he put in a basket, and the broth in a pot. And he brought the food to him under the oak of terebinth and presented it. The angel of God said to him, "Take the meat, unleavened bread, and lay them on this rock, and pour out the broth over them." And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord put out the end of the staff that was in his hand and touched the meat and the unleavened bread, and fire flared up from the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened bread. Then the angel of the Lord vanished from his sight. When Gideon realized without any doubt that he was the angel of the Lord, he declared, "Oh no, Lord God, for now I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face. And I am doomed." The Lord said to him, "Peace to you. Do not be afraid. You shall not die." Then Gideon built an altar there to the Lord and named it, "The Lord is Peace." To this day, it is still an Ophrah of the Israelites. Now on that same night, the Lord said to Gideon, "Take your father's bull, the second bull, 7 years old, and tear down the altar of Baal that belongs to your father, and cut down the Asherah that is beside it, and build an altar to the Lord your God on top of this mountain stronghold, with stones laid down in an ordinary way. Then take the second bull and offer a burnt sacrifice using the wood of the Asherah, which you shall cut down." Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants and did just as the Lord had told him. But because he was too afraid of his father's household, relatives, and the men of the city to do it during that daylight, he did it at night. Early the next morning, when the men of the city got up, they discovered that the altar of Baal was torn down, and the Asherah, which was beside it, was cut down, and the second bull was offered on the altar, which had been built. So they said to one another, "Who has done this thing?" When they searched about and inquired, they were told Gideon, the son of Joash, who did it. Then the men of the city said to Joash, "Bring out your son so that he may be executed, because he has torn down the altar of Baal and cut down the Asherah which was beside it." But Joash said to all who stood against him, "Will you plead for Baal? Will you save him? Whoever pleads for Baal shall be put to death while it is still morning. If Baal is a god, let him defend himself, because someone has torn down his altar." Therefore on that day he named Gideon Jerubbaal, meaning "let Baal plead," because he had torn down his altar. Then all the Midianites and all the Amalekites and the people of the east assembled together, and they crossed over the Jordan and camped in the valley of Jezreel. So the Spirit of the Lord clothed Gideon and empowered him, and he blew a trumpet, and the Israelites were called together as military to follow him. He sent messengers throughout the tribe of Messiah, and the fighting men were also called together to follow him. And he sent messengers to the tribes of Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, and they came up to meet them. Then Gideon said to God, "If you are going to rescue Israel from me as you have spoken, behold, I will put a fleece of freshly sheared wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece, and it is dry on all the ground around it, then I will know that you will rescue Israel from me, as you have said." And it was so. When he got up early the next morning and squeezed the dew out of the fleece, he wrung from it a bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, "Do not let your anger burn against me, so that I may speak once more. Please let me make a test once more with the fleece now. Let only the fleece be dry, and let there be dew on all the ground." God did so that night, for it was dry only on the fleece, and there was dew on all the ground around it. So we're at Judges 7. Gideon's 300 chosen men. Judges chapter 7. Then Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, all the people who were with him, got up early and camped beside the spring of Harad. And the camp of Midian was north of them, by the hill of Moriah in the valley. Then the Lord said to Gideon, "There are too many people with you for me to hand over Midian to them, otherwise Israel will boast about themselves against me, saying, 'My own power had rescued me.' So now proclaim in the hearing of the people, whoever is afraid and trembling, let him turn back and leave Mount Gilead." So 22,000 men returned home, but 10,000 remained. Then the Lord said to Gideon, "There are still too many people. Bring them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. There shall be that he of whom I say to you, 'This one shall go with you,' he shall go with you. But everyone of whom I say to you, 'This one shall not go with you,' he shall not go." So he brought the people down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, "You shall separate everyone who laps the water with his tongue as a dog laps, as well as everyone who kneels down to drink." Now the number of those who lapped the water, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300 men, but all the rest of the people kneeled down to drink water. And the Lord told Gideon, "With the 300 men who lapped, I will rescue you, and will hand over the Midianites to you, and let all the other people go, each man to his home." So the 300 men took people's provisions for the journey and their trumpets, and made the ram's horns in their hands. And Gideon sent away all the other men of Israel, each to his tent, but kept the 300 men, and the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. Now on that same night the Lord said to Gideon, "Arise, go down against their camp, for I have given it into your hand. But if you are afraid to go down by yourself, go with Purah your servant down to the camp, and you will hear what they say, and afterward you will have the courage to go down against the camp." Then he went down with Purah his servant to the outposts of the army that was in the camp. Now the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the sons of the east were lying camped in this valley, as countless as locusts, and the camels were without number as numerous as the sand on the seashore. When Gideon arrived, there was a man telling a dream to his friend, and he said, "Listen carefully, I have a dream. There was a loaf of barley bread tumbling into the land of Midian, and it came to the tent and struck it, so that it fell and turned it upside down, so that the tent lay flat." And his friend replied, "This dream is nothing less than the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. God has given Midian and the entire camp into his hand." When Gideon heard the account of the dream and interpretation, he bowed down and worshipped. Then he returned to the camp of Israel and said, "Arise, for the Lord has given the camp of Midian into your hand." And he divided the 300 men into three companies, and he put trumpets and empty pitchers into the hands of all of them, with torches in the side the pitchers. And he said to them, "Look at me, then do likewise. When I come to the edge of the camp, do just as I do. When I and all who are with me blow the trumpet, ram's horn, then all around the camp, you also blow the trumpets and shout for the Lord and for Gideon." So Gideon and the 100 men who were with him came to the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, and then the guards had just been changed, and they blew the trumpets and smashed the pitchers that were in their hands. And when 3 companies blew trumpets and broke the pitchers, they held the torches in their left hands and the trumpets in their right hands to blow, and they shouted a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. Then each stood in his place around the camp, and the entire Midianite army ran crying out as they fled. When Gideon's men blew the 300 trumpets, the Lord set the sword of the Midian against another, even throughout the whole army, and the army fled as far as Bethshear, towards Syria, as far as the border of Abel Maholah by Tabath. The men of Israel were summoned together from the tribes of Naphtali and Asher and Amashar, and they pursued Midian. Then Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of the tribe of Ephraim, saying, "Come down against the Midianites and take control of the waters before them," thereby cutting off the Midianites as far as Bethbara and the Jordan River. So all the men of Ephraim were assembled together, and he took control of the waters as far as Bethbara and the Jordan. Then the men of Ephraim took the 2 leaders of Midian, Orab and Zeb, and they killed Orab at the rock of Over, and they killed Zeb at the winepress of Zeb, and pursued Midian, and they brought the heads of Orab and Zeb to Gideon from across the Jordan. That's 7. So I'm at chapter Judges 8. Ziba and Zalmunna routed. And the men of the tribe of Ephraim and to Gideon, what is this thing that you have done to us, not calling us when you went to fight with Midian? And they quarreled with him vehemently. But he said to them, what have I done now that is so significant in comparison with you? Is not the gleaning leftovers of the grapes of your tribe of Ephraim better than the vintage entire harvest of my clan of Abiezer? God has given the leaders of Midian, Oreb, and Zeb into your hands. And what was I able to do in comparison with you? Then their anger toward him subsided when he made the statement. So Gideon came to the Jordan and crossed over the river, and the 300 men who were with him, exhausted yet still pursuing the enemy, he said to the men of Succoth, please give me the loaves of bread of the people who are following me, since they are exhausted. And I am pursuing Zebda and Zalmunna. I don't know how to pronounce these words. They're so difficult. Zalmunna, I guess is saying. Zalmunna, kings of Midian. But the leaders of Succoth said, are Ziba and Zalmunna already in your hands, that we should give bread to your army? Gideon said, for that response, when the Lord has handed over Zibiah and Zebulun to me, I will thrash your bodies with the thorns and briars of the wilderness. He went from there up to Penuel and spoke similarly to them, and the men of Penuel answered him, just as the men of Succoth had answered. So Gideon said also to the men of Penuel, when I come again in peace, I will tear down this tower. Now Zebulun and Zebulun were quartered with their armies, about 50,000 fighting men, all who were left on the entire army of the sons of East, 420,000 swordsmen had fallen. Gideon went up by the route of those who lived in the tents to the east of Nobah and Jobiah, and he attacked their camp when the camp was unexpected. When Zibiah and Zebulun fled, he pursued them and captured the 2 kings of Midian, Zibiah and Zebulun, and terrified the entire family. Then Gideon, the son of Joash, turned from the battle by the essence of years. He captured the young men of Succoth and questioned them. And the youth wrote down for him the names of the leaders of Succoth and its elders, 7 men. He came to the men of Succoth and said, look here, Zibiah and Zebulun, about whom you taunted me, saying, are Zibiah and Zebulun now in your hand, that we should give bread to your men who are exhausted? He took the elders of the city and thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them he punished the men of Succoth. He tore down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. Then Gideon said to Zebah and Zebulun, what kind of men were they whom you killed at Tabor? And they replied, they were like you. Each one of them resembled the son of a king. He said, they were my brothers, the sons of my mother, as the Lord lives. If only you had let them live, I will not kill you. So to humiliate them, Gideon said to Joshua his firstborn, stand up and kill them. But the youth did not draw his sword because he was afraid, for he was still just a boy. Then Zebah and Zebulun said, rise up yourself and strike us, for as the man is, so is his strength. So Gideon arose and killed Zebah and Zebulun and took the crescent amulets that were on the camels. Next, then the men of Israel said to Gideon, rule as king over us, both you and your sons also, sons. For you have rescued us from the hand of Midian. But Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. The Lord shall be rule over you. And Gideon said to them, I will make a request of you, that each one of you give me an earring from his spoil, from the Midianites had gold earrings, because they were Ishmaelites, who customly wore them. They answered, "We will certainly give them to you." And they spread out a garment, and every one of them threw an earring there from his spoil. And the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, apart from the crescent, amulets, and pendants, and the purple garments which were worn by the kings of Midian, and apart from the chains that were on their camels' necks. Gideon made all the golden earrings into an ephod, a sacred high priest garment, and put it in the city of Ophir, and all Israel worshipped it as an idol there. And it became a trap for Gideon and his household. So Midian was subdued and humbled before the sons of Israel, and they no longer lift up their heads in pride in the land at rest for 40 years in the days of Gideon. Jerubbaal Gideon, the son of Joshua, went and lived in their own house. And now Gideon had 70 sons born to him, because he had many wives. And his concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, one his name Amalek. Gideon, the son of Josh, died a good man at man's age, and was buried in the tomb of Joshua his father, in Ophir of the Israelites. Then it came about, as soon as Gideon was dead, that the Israelites again played the prostitute with the Baals, and made Baal bear after God. And the Israelites did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the hand of all their enemies on every side. Nor did they show kindness to the family of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, in return for all the good that he has done for Israel. Jerubbaal, I don't know, that's so weird names. That worse. Okay. Sorry, I got a headache. Oh god. Hold on, I need to take some aspirin because I'm really not feeling no good today. I'm gonna restart the live anyway.